Welcome to the Ultimate Life television program, brought to you by Pastor Gracious Selassie Awiye of Treasure House ICGC, where you are treasured and not trashed.
Welcome to the Ultimate Life broadcast. I'm your host, Gracious Selassie Awiye, pastor of Treasure House ICGC. Jesus said, I'm come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. It's life above the ordinary. It's called the ultimate life. On this program, you are presented with the blueprint for the ultimate life. So expect to be changed, expect to grow, expect the ultimate life. My subject today is you can change your life. I want to begin today by telling you about three men who survived concentration camps and dramatically changed their lives. The first one is a man called Fred Koch. He was one of the only 15 people who survived when 87,000 people were killed in Treblinka concentration camp. The Russians came and released them from the camp. He ran into the forest and he ate berries in the woods. Finally, the Russians captured him. They interrogated him and he ended up in America, a young boy, all on his own, destitute and penniless. But he worked his way up. He found jobs till eventually he opened what was known as the Imperial Toy Corporation. You might never have heard of the Imperial Toy Corporation. He invented a ball called the Super Ball, where you bounce it on the ground and it goes up about 2 stories high. He also invented a little jar that you open the lid and you dip the stick in the liquid and you blow bubbles. He patented that. They had over 800 toys in over 80 countries. He was quite a brilliant man and made a fortune for himself. Where he started was not where he finished. Where he started was not where he finished. He dramatically changed his life. The other man is called Jack Tramiel. He was a survivor at the age of 16 after being in a camp called Lords. He was even examined by Joseph Meningel, who the one who experimented on Jewish people. His family died, but he was liberated from Auschwitz in 1943, and he ended up in America as well, just as a young boy, because the 84th Division of the U.S. Army had liberated him from Auschwitz. He joined the army and he began to study. He learned how to work typewriters and learned how to fix them. As a result of that, he then left the army and felt he had an inclination for typewriters. So, while driving taxis, he saved up money and opened a typewriter shop. When he was running the typewriter shop, he then ventured into computers, and he was the founder of Commodore Computers. The Commodore 64 was the best-selling computer of all time, and he has gone down in computer history for being in a concentration camp. He's become part of computer history. Isn't that amazing how you can change your life? The other man I want to tell you about is William Conner. He also, when he was 12, was uprooted from his family and was taken from a Polish village, put into a concentration camp. All of his family were killed, and he was orphaned at 16 and ended up on a boat going to America. When he got to the States, he was put in a foster home where he grew up. Later, he developed himself in business and he achieved a lot of success. He entered the medical field. Later, he bought the foster home and he turned it into a center. Today, that same foster home is known as the William and Sheila Conner Center for Liver and Digestive Diseases, and is part of a hospital. It's amazing how you end up a foster child and you end up buying that and turning it into something. But most of all, he ended up opening a big chain of pharmacies, a well-known one in America called CVS. And he became very wealthy as a result of that. Where he started is not where he finished. These three men were all Jews. They all started badly, but they changed their lives through their anchoring and their faith in God. Jewish people understand that they can change their lives that God is a God of change. There's a statement I want to make today. They understand that the way I am today is not the way I will be tomorrow. Do you know that kind of statement today? Are you aware of the fact that your life can change? Your position, your character. You don't have to stay stuck anywhere. You can change your life. Every year, people make resolutions that they are going to change, and they don't. Then they become discouraged. Many people accept Jesus into their lives, and then they see very little change. That's not because God isn't powerful or he doesn't have the ability, but we don't understand the principles that are needed to bring change. We live in a wonderful environment of grace under God that enables us to change. Do you know that in Roman society, if you grew up poor, you were always poor? If you were born poor, you were stuck there as a poor person. The Roman Empire didn't have a mechanism for improving your life. If you grew up in Europe and you were poor, you didn't marry the upper classes. The upper classes and the lower classes didn't mix. It was scandalous. You were stuck there. But in Christ and through the word, we have a picture that we can always move forward and cross over, and we can change. When God took hold of Abraham, he took hold of him as the first Hebrew. It's an interesting word. The word Hebrew means IVRI, which means one who crosses over. Isn't that fascinating? That God took a hold of a man and told him to leave his country and his family and to cross over into another life, a better life, a bigger life. And that's the destiny of all of us children of Abraham who are born again. When God got hold of Moses, he was in the desert for 40 years, stuck, if you like, in a social and mental and emotional and spiritual strata. God called him and said, I want to use you to take my people and cross them over. That's what the word Passover means, one who crosses over. And when they journeyed and they came to the Red Sea, they crossed over the sea into a new life. God has called us to cross over. We are not a people who are meant to stay stuck where we are. Whenever Jesus gets a hold of a person or a person's life, they change. There's a dramatic improvement. I want us to read a key text today. We are going to look at some brief principles, and then I'm going to give you some practical things to do in order to change your thinking so that you can understand the power and ability to change. John chapter 9 verse 1. It's a well-known story in the gospel about a man who was born blind. John chapter 9 verse 1. As he went along, he saw a man blind from his birth. It speaks of someone who was stuck for a very long time, who had a bad start. But as we read the story, we see that things changed for him. We need to believe the same for our lives. It doesn't matter where you were born. It doesn't matter if you were born poor. It doesn't matter if you were born a loser. That doesn't matter. It's where you end up that actually counts. And Jesus encounters him with the disciples. Verse 2 is very important. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? It's often when we face circumstances of limitation, we want to find someone to blame. Who is responsible for this position I'm in? But it's the wrong question to ask. That's not important. What's important is the future. And you notice Jesus switches their attention away from who is to blame, instead to what can be done about it. What can be done about it? Verses 3 and 4. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. That means transformation works. verse 5 and 6. While I'm in the world, I'm the light of the world. After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. I want you to see what actually happened here so that you can understand the desperation in this blind man. When Jesus spat on the ground, I don't think it was the kind of cathedral spitting. I believe that because the man couldn't see, his senses were heightened. He would have heard that, and he would have heard the rubbing and the gritting of the sun. Then he would have felt something in his eyes. At any point, he could have pulled away. And I've discovered when you are desperate and you don't mind being embarrassed, that's when you experience change. Many of us want to change and want the power of God to change us, but we don't want to be embarrassed. We don't want to be inconvenienced. I want my marriage to improve, but I'm not prepared to go for counseling. You are not going to see change. You've got to be willing to be spat on, rubbed in the eyes, walking through the city looking like an idiot with the stuff running down your face. Can you imagine the people who bumped into him? Hey, where are you going? Do you know what's on you? Someone gobbed on you. I know, shut up. And he's just, groping along on the street. You've got to be desperate enough. Some of us don't change because we are not desperate enough. We are waiting for something to happen. Let's read on. Jesus gave him instructions and responsibility. Verses 7 to 9. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg? Some claimed that he was. Others said, no, he only looks like him. But he himself insisted, I am the one. When Jesus changes your life, there's a recognizable difference in you. I want my life to be like this every year, that you see something on the outside of me that reflects an inward change. I don't want to stay the same as I've been years ago. I want to keep on changing because I have what it takes to change. Let's continue reading. Verse 10 to 12. How then were your eyes open? They asked. He replied, the man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and washed. So I went and washed, and then I could see. Where is this man? They asked him. I don't know. He said, you don't have to know everything to have your life change. You don't have to know everything to have your life changed. It's not knowledge that changes you, but the power of God and faith in the power of God. This man suffered from blindness. I've realized that many of us suffer from forms of blindness too. That prevents us from changing. And sometimes when you are blind to certain things, you don't experience change. 3 things that we are often blind to. The first one is we are often blind to what Jesus has done. You will not change if you don't realize what he has done. He died. He has given you his good news that he loves you. And when you know that, you've got a foundation upon which to spring forward into change. How many of you know if God died on the cross for you in the person of his son Jesus, he will do much more for you? And the scripture tells us about this good news. It says this good news that's going out all over the world is bearing fruit everywhere and changing lives just as it changed your life. The gospel of what Christ has done should give you confidence to say, Lord, you can change me. You took away my sin. How much more won't you do for me? The next point is we can be blind to what we need to do. Jesus has done something, but we need to do something ourselves. The blind man had the power of Jesus present, but he had to go to Siloam and act out. And there are certain responsibilities for change that rest upon us. I don't want to burden you today, but I want to make you aware that you need to step into something if you are going to see change. Too many of us are passive and we are waiting. And the reason is we are not desperate enough. Jim Carrey, the actor who has moved his life forward with tremendous discipline and determination, he said this: I don't think human beings learn anything without desperation. Some of us want to change, but we are not willing to go. We are not willing to act. There must be some kind of stepping out. There must be some kind of practical moving forward and a participation on our part. I believe people change when they know enough that they want to. When you get knowledge, that's when you can change. But here's the thing: they change when they hurt enough. They have to. They change when they hurt enough that they have to. I prefer to know something and change than hurt and have to change. You don't want to watch your finances get to the place where they are about to repossess your house. You have to look at your bank statement and say, I know I'm in trouble here. Sit down with your family and say, we need to make some changes. Knowledge is good, but when you get to the place where you are desperate, sometimes that's where you take action. So that's what Jesus has done. That's what we need to do. The third point is we are blind to the process beyond our encounter. Jesus encounters us at salvation. He encountered this blind man, but there's going to be a process after the encounter. The blind man is going to have to live out his life differently. He's not going to be a beggar anymore. He's going to make new friendships. He's going to have to work and look after himself. And you don't just change automatically. There's going to be a discipline and a process. And the way we grow and change as believers is by the renewing of our minds and our thinking after we've encountered Jesus. We know what he's done. We recognize what we need to do. And now we have to live out in an ongoing way. At salvation, you cross over. It's every day you need to cross over into new thinking. Romans 12 says we mustn't be conformed to our culture. Don't allow the habits, patterns, and negative and small thinking to control you, but be transformed. Metamorphosis like a worm to a butterfly. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Your thinking has to change if you want to change. And so you have the power and the ability, and the thinking comes through the word. 5 things we need to do in terms of our thinking. The first one is we must believe that we can change. You can change. I can change. You might want to change today. You might really have a desire, but secretly you believe you can. You must believe that you can. And I want to tell you why you can today. You can change because you're a human being. You have a will that can make decisions. Did you know that animals cannot make decisions to be any different to what they are? No lion can wake up one day and stand on his hind legs and say, I'm standing up today. I'm tired of lying on the grass and eating blood. I'm going to stand up and go to the city and I'm changing my life. But a human being can make that decision. You can come out of a concentration camp and be in rags and determine one day I'm going to be wealthy. One day I'm going to be respected. One day I'm going to make a contribution to my world. Only a human being can do that. And I want to encourage you today to not sit around waiting like an animal for someone to feed you and help you and lead you into opportunity. Too many Christians are waiting for some savior, a politician, a deliverer, or union. When they do that, then we will. You are living in a dream world. You need to wake up and act. This is how it works. Jesus delivered us. We must learn to overcome. Too many people are waiting for a deliverer. No. It's not someone delivers you. You overcome what you are facing. You decide this issue, this weakness, this limitation, I'm overcoming it by the power of God. But too many people are sitting saying, send me a deliverer. The prime minister will be the one, and he'll reduce our energy bill and council tax, and everyone is waiting for someone instead of getting on with overcoming and believing I can, God can. There's too much passivity. That's why Jesus put his hands on the man, spat on his face, and sent him out to act. He didn't just say, right, you are done, you are healed. Right, you are done, you are healed. And it's so easy for us to get stuck. He delivered us, but we must learn to overcome. Only once in the New Testament is the word deliverance mentioned in the letters. It says he delivered us in the book of Colossians, but we must overcome. And you mustn't be passive waiting for something to happen. You need to believe you can. Can I say to you today, if you are in a job that's a dead-end job, or you're feeling like you are stuck somewhere, it's a matter of changing your thinking. That's going to get you free. If you believe you are trapped, I've worked here all these years, and now have done away with us, and they are closing this company, and what's that going to mean? And people rise up with resentment and protesting instead of saying, how can I change and adapt? Do you know our world is always changing? If you don't change, you are going to get stuck. In 1908, Henry Ford produced the Model T Ford. It took the world by storm, and people began to buy these cars. He mass-produced them, the first mass-produced car. By 1914, which is just 6 years later, there were 250,000 of those cars on the road. As a result, there were 110,000 people in America who were involved in carriages and wheels and whip making, cleaning up manure behind horses. They all lost their jobs. There are 250,000 blacksmiths who used to put shoes on horses that now were out of work. Those who couldn't adapt to the changing times became miserable and resentful, and they hated the motor car and saw it as an evil. Those who adapted and changed ended up working in engineering firms, making seats for cars. Those who formerly made whips made seats. Those who formerly were blacksmiths, they were now not just putting shoes on horses, they were now making sophisticated pieces of engineering, and their lives went to another level. But those who didn't change were stuck there. It's up to you to change your thinking, not to wait for the world to provide a job for you, but to adapt. But it starts with believing that you can. The next point is we must not allow our nature to rule us. Or let me put it this way, you have a lower nature that if you allow it to rule you, will not cause you to progress and change, but it will cause you to degenerate and go backward. And our world is telling us that we don't have a lower nature. It's telling us to be ourselves and to do whatever we feel. Do you know how dangerous that is? Let's read from the book of Jude, where it warns us about living according to our nature. Book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 17 to 19. But you, my dear friends, must remember that the apostles of our Lord Jesus Christ predicted. They told you that in the last times there will be scoffers whose purpose in life is to satisfy their ungodly desires. These people are the ones who are creating divisions among you. They follow their natural instincts because they do not have God's Spirit in them. They do not have the Spirit of God in them. People who just live by whatever they feel. People who just live by whatever they feel. They are telling you today, go with your heart. No, don't. You've got a lower nature, and if you yield to it, it will take you down. You constantly have to live up. We can't allow our nature to rule us. We have to rise above it. I want you to know that you have the ability to change. And the biggest takeaway from this message is that you can commit your life to grow and change in every area of your life. You should not stagnate as a person in your career, in your walk with God. You need to trust God to change your life, to change your income, to change your future and your opportunities. I trust that today's message has been a blessing to you, and I want to say a big thank you to you for tuning into this program, and I look forward to coming your way next time. But always remember, if you want a life that is going to be as abundant as possible without chaos and confusion, you live it by God's way. God bless you and have a great day.
Thank you for watching the Ultimate Life television program. We hope you have been blessed by the teaching. Tune in to our next program on the same channel and the same time next week. You are cordially invited to visit Treasure House ICGC for our Sunday morning church services at the New Horizon Center, South Lodge Avenue, adjacent to the Pollards Hill Library, CR4 1LT. For ministry products and other information, please contact us on 0208 355 3461 or send an email to pastor@treasurehouseiCGC.co.uk. You may also visit our website www.treasurehouseiCGC.co.uk. Our service times are as follows: Sunday 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and Wednesday 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. You can also download our ministry app, Gracious Awaye, to listen to Pastor Gray's messages from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. May God richly bless you.